subscribe, like, do what you want, really. And we are back with semi-final number 2 in the championship tournament to determine the very best action figure belt ever made. Before you see on the left of your screen winner of quarterfinal number 3 and seed number 3 in the competition. It is the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championship, Reggie Parks E Design. And on the right-hand side of your screen, and winner of quarterfinal number 4 is seed number 2, the WWF, or the really WWE, Winged Eagle Championship, a deluxe version by Jakks. So, how are we going to determine and find out who is going through to the final with a chance to sit on the big red podium towards the back of your picture? Well, in this semi-final, we're going to be looking at best champion, longest reigns and most reigns. We're going to look at worst champion and shortest reigns. And we're also going to look at wrestlers that should have been champions. Wrestlers who were great, but never got the opportunity to carry this version of this belt. So we'll begin on the left-hand side of your screen with seed number 3, WWF Tag Team Championship from the 80s and 90s. Best champion, longest reign, most reigns. I mean, great teams like Demolition, that's Axe and Smash, or maybe it's Crush. Nah, he was about 3 foot taller. They had 478 days as tag champs, followed then by Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid, the British Bulldogs, with 294 days. Heart Foundation with 274 days. And I guess with this version of the title, who had the most reigns? I think it might end up being Edge and Christian, who certainly held this version, or if not the slightly attituded version, towards the late 90s, early 2000s. 7 reigns for Edge and Christian, slowly and closely rather followed by the Dudley Boys, who held, I think, subsequent versions of the World Tag title. So I don't think the Dudleys held this as much as Edge and Christian would have done. Worst champion and shortest reigns, I mean, I couldn't believe this. January 1995, your World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions were the 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Holly. Oh my goodness. You might also say a worst reign could go to Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie from March 1998. The only reign for about 1 day thanks to the wrong dumpster. I mean, sometimes we accuse of WWE and WWF of not having logic, not having sensible storytelling. I think the wrong dumpster thing is just kind of sensibleness and logic gone far too far. But you know what? The rules are the rules. You put the guy in the wrong dumpster, you can't be a World Tag Team Champion. There we go. What about should have been champions? Quite shocking, really, one of these. But before that, a team I have an awful lot of time for, the Orient Express. Never got a look in as far as being World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions. And then the other team, shockingly, and I double-checked it, and then I realised that I remember the story, is the Rockers. Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels, never World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions. They technically won the belts by beating the Heart Foundation in the infamous match where the top rope broke. And the Rockers then carried the belts around for a week or so as quote-unquote tag team champions. But it was decided not to air, not to show that match on TV. And therefore the belts were handed back to the Heart Foundation and the reign was never officially recognised. Pretty shocking stuff, I dare say. Let's move on then to the right-hand side of your screen and Jakks' Deluxe WWF, although it is actually a WWE Winged Eagle belt. And one thing I didn't mention in the previous quarter-final is an annoyance, and one of the reasons why it didn't score as well in terms of its seeding and its likeness to the actual belt is that here we have scratch logos. Look. And not any scratch logo. It's there. It's on the side plates as well. Not any scratch logo, but a WWE scratch logo. Not a WWE block logo, which would have made sense. They could have done that in terms of not being able to use WWF on their products. But they went for a contemporary WWE scratch logo on this belt, which I only just noticed and I forgot to mention last time out. Pretty annoying, I think you'll agree. Well, what about then best champion, longest reigns and most reigns? Well, of course, Hulk Hogan was champion for 1,474 days starting in January 1984, although of course this belt didn't actually show up until the latter end of that reign, so maybe we can't really count him. What about Randy Savage? 371 days from March 1988. And then, believe it or not, Diesel, Big Daddy Cool, Big Sexy, Kevin Nash himself, 358 days from November 1994. Now looking at worst champions and shortest reigns of the Winged Eagle Championship. Psycho Sid in 1996. You might even argue Shawn Michaels' reign in 1996, just in terms of box office and money made, or rather money very much not made. Diesel again in 1994. WWF was tanking in a big, big way. So he was champion for well over a year, but he didn't really make too much cash in that time. What about Andre the Giant? The referee bribe in 1988. He wasn't really champion, kind of was, kind of wasn't, had the belt. Is it officially recognised? I don't really think it is. And what about Yokozuna? WrestleMania 9, beats Bret Hart and then falls to the immortal Hulk Hogan, who he was just trying to help Bret Hart, right? He saw his friend was down and then he went to defend his friend's honour. Or was it all about ego? I'll let you decide. Should have been champion, though, in terms of the WWF Winged Eagle Championship, is really quite a list. Wrestling greats like Rick Rude, who I know had his moment in WCW, fair enough. Ricky Steamboat, who had a few stints in the WWF, but maybe wasn't ever around long enough to capitalise. He too, of course, had glory days in the NWA and WCW. Ted DiBiase, $1 Million Man, had to make his own belt because Hogan couldn't lose it. And I don't mean that in the sense of he couldn't be beaten. I guess he refused to lose it. Or Vince McMahon didn't want him to lose it. One or the other. What about Owen Hart? Would it have been great to see Owen maybe beat Bret for the title and have a few return matches? That would have been awesome. One of my personal favourites, Vader. Why Vader did not beat Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam, I do not know. I remember literally seeing the end of that match and turning to my brother and going, I am never watching wrestling again. Obviously, of course, I have, but Vader could have been a real monster. And maybe, again, he was a victim of not being a WWF homegrown project. Of course, he'd been a monster in WCW, and Shawn Michaels was probably crying about losing the title as well. So just politics getting in the way of men who should have had a reign and a run at the top. Razor Ramon, Scott Hall himself, maybe he could have gone from IC level up to Winged Eagle World Wrestling Federation Championship level. Mr. Perfect again, another victim really of the Hogan era. And then Roddy Piper. A lot of people say, oh, Roddy Piper didn't need to be world champion. Of course, he had a really great Intercontinental title run that led to one of my favourite matches at WrestleMania 8 with Bret Hart. But I don't like this argument of, oh, he didn't need it, they didn't need it. You know, wrestling was so hot, it didn't matter who was champion. You know, they were running various towns. He'll have been headlining, he'll have been earning the money and stuff. But would it have been nice to have been recognised in the same way of winning an Oscar? It's like saying, oh, they're a great actor, but they don't need an Oscar. I think it's nice for someone to say, you know what? You're really good at this and we have faith in you and we believe in you. But maybe that's me being sentimental and not a ruthless businessman and wrestling promoter. So, all that said, is it going to be seed number 3, WWF Tag Team Championship by Mattel? Or is it going to be seed number 2, WWF, but really WWE Deluxe Winged Eagle by Jakks, going through into the final for its chance to sit on the red podium as the championship belt winner? Well, it's difficult this, because the belt on the left is much better built and it is much more of a likeness. The belt on the right, obviously is painted nicely for the time, probably one of Jakks' best belts. I don't like the clicker back, this whole kind of belt. It just looks messy. When it's sat there, I like the fact that this belt looks quite neat. And this one's just got this random bit of strap just sticking out there. That having been said, given the conversation we've just had, I'm going to have to give it to seed number 2, Jakks' Deluxe WWF, but in reality, WWE Winged Eagle Championship, going through to the final for the chance to sit on the big red podium and be recognised as the championship belt. But which will win? Join us next time. Take care. Ta-ra now.